Buddy, here we go. Mayhem Monday, DJ. And, today is all about patience or the lack thereof, I guess. To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
Look at that.
Did you see that, brother? We have a 2-second difference between the two good mornings this morning, my man.
1 second. On my end, it says 1 second.
Oh, on my end, it says 2. So I show Lisa beating Jeff by 2 seconds this morning.
I see
and
one.
Then Jeff, Lisa's got me. Good job.
I love you guys. Challenge accepted, and you guys are ready to go.
All over it. So, patience. The power of patience, DJ. As I was just sharing with you off air, for everybody watching and listening, I forgot the stack of cards going into being away. And good morning, Antoine.
Well, you can obviously see Dan's background has changed. So Dan, like you mentioned last week.
No, it's a filter. It's a filter.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Start to do this so you can see the screen change a little bit. No, just kidding.
Yeah. It's in traveling yesterday and for being up this morning and forgetting the stack of cards so DJ could pick a topic live, started really exploring this idea of patience, and it came back, DJ, to the idea of how many times when we tried to push a deal through, like really push it through, how many times did it work? For me, I can say probably zero.
Yes.
And I started thinking, because I'm having conversations with students, and one of the biggest challenges is, like, I got all this in the pipeline and things don't seem to be coming out the other side. And when we look at a lot of people start to get frustrated. They start to waver from the processes that they've put in place and things they've done. And not that we don't have to change processes, but I think there's there's power in consistency. And if it's not working, just stay consistent with it to work, right? And Q2, share with us from your experience, but for me, Q2 has always been one of the toughest quarters. That motivation from Q1, from January 1st, from all these new goals has really fallen off. We're heading into for where we are anyways, cold to warm months. There's that transition where it's like, okay, well, people are away, they're on vacation, So it was, for me, Q2's always been the toughest to stay motivated, to stay inspired, to keep going. And I always found that in Q2, I would try and push sales through, right? Because how do you stay motivated? You close a couple of deals. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and it never worked. Share your thoughts on that.
I agree. Oh man, I'm so glad. So obviously, thank you for joining us from that beautiful place and part of your vacation over there. But
I'm glad the internet's working.
Yes. So far, so good. But so you mentioned a few things that I think were so key. The process. I think we have to, when we lose patience or we start to waver in the process, we just got to trust the process. I think that's part of where we grow that impatience. We're like, okay, we're doing this so smooth. We got a nice pipeline, like you said, and the process, we're doing this whole process, and then all of a sudden, like we get to that point where we feel like it's full, and we just, you're like, come on, break through already. And I don't think anything, I've never forced, or at least I didn't feel like I've ever forced one, like you said, either. You can't. And if you start to waver from the process,
no, don't get me wrong.
I think you fall off.
I have. And you've spoken to Thomas, right? Because Thomas has been on with us. Okay. So Thomas is a perfect example. Thomas Gray. When I was when I was working through the process with Thomas, he was in my fulfill stage for months. And I remember one day I just said, you know what, like, enough's enough. I said, hey, Thomas, are we going to do this or what? Like, we've been talking to each other for months. We get along great. And it wasn't a, do this or else kind of situation. It was are we going to do this? Like, we've been talking for months. And sometimes our customers do need just that little push to get over the edge to say, you know what, let's go. And that's exactly what Thomas did. He goes, you know what, Dan, you're right, man. because I trust you. I love our conversations. Let's do it. And he turned out to be one of the best customers I ever had. Was he a multi-million-dollar customer? No, but from a client profile perspective, one of the best customers I have ever had in my life. And
Yeah.
he understood. I love that education piece. He took in the education piece, and I did kind of push him, but I felt just at that moment when it was happening, it's that intuition part that sometimes
Yeah,
as
and
sales
I'm
reps we
glad you
don't pay.
said that because I was going to say
Yeah.
I think you more trusted your gut
Yes.
than forced him because at least from Thomas and meeting Thomas, shout out Thomas. I mean, he's a great dude, but I think if you would have pushed him, like actually pushed him, like we're talking, I don't know that. I think you felt it. Maybe you pushed yourself to feel that inside that gut, and then it was like, yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
would you
why,
think maybe I decided to ask for the sale?
yeah,
Right? Because when you think about it, it's kind of like and I'm sure, listen, the kind of guy Thomas is, he would have had conversations with me for another 6 months because he just
yes.
enjoyed it. He
He's
was a
just a
cool
nice
guy to
dude.
talk to. Yeah, exactly, right? And sometimes that can happen. So let's jump back in here.
Agreed.
Jeff, so close. One down, four to
Oh,
go.
you got it, Lisa.
Hayden, Dan with the Tropical Guides. Yes, sir. Hayden, how are you this morning, brother?
Yes.
Jeff says, Lisa, bring your A game. Jeff also says, if you have to force it, it's not meant to teach. Take a step back and pace yourself. All good things come with time. You know, and
Yes.
and Jeff's right. And
Yes, wise grasshopper.
wise grasshopper, yes. And also look at this idea of forcing things. You know, when you try and force things, there is a um, a frustration that comes with it when it doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
And that frustration then can lead to self-doubt and all the other things that we see are real high, especially in the sales career, right?
Mm.
That I mean,
Would you
it
say part of the frustration is maybe that self doubt that we start telling ourselves? That we're like,
yeah,
so we
I think
start,
huge for
it starts
sure,
to really, we're like,
for
oh man,
sure.
this isn't gonna fucking happen. I'm wasting all my time. What am I doing? And you start thinking those things, and then that's where the
100%.
frustration
I
really
mean,
comes. Like,
have you
okay,
ever
I
had
got to
a
do this already. And
yeah, yeah. Have you ever had a low like in sales? You close a bunch of deals, you don't
yeah,
close a deal for 5 or 6 months. That
yes,
as a salesperson, especially as a high performer, as somebody who loves to train, who loves to excel, who loves to continuously scale their career, somebody who's in this for the long haul. When
yeah.
you're in logistics for the long haul and you don't close deals for 5 or 6 months, it starts playing with your head.
You start
I
to
mean, I
panic. Yeah,
oh huge,
yeah.
and
Do I
it's
know
that.
what I'm doing? What happened?
Yes, exactly, DJ. Exactly. And it's that, did I lose it? Did I lose the gift or
Yes.
whatever they say, who's they anyways? I don't know. But whatever they say you have, the gift or did I lose my momentum or is there something wrong? And I've been through it a million times.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember I switched to a company that was local and I remember sitting there one day going, man, I haven't closed a deal in like 7 months. Like, and I started questioning myself. And it's
Mm.
funny because this is the same company I told you about that called me in on my birthday, and I thought I was getting a cake, and they ended up handing me my notice. But
Yeah.
they were firing me, and I'd never been fired from a job before. But it's when things like that happen where you start to realize, okay, how dedicated was I? How
Yeah.
much did I believe in my
What was
team?
I
And I
doing? Yeah.
realized the guy that was running the ops, I had zero belief in this guy, zero.
Ah, there it
And
is.
and it turned me into that, well, why would I do that? Because all I'm going to do is close the business and then they're going to lose the business. So why would and which is
Yeah.
crazy talk because it's my career, not his, mine, not hers, mine.
Yeah.
And it's like we have to do everything in our power to enhance our careers. If it's our career and that's where we want to go. But when you have all these huge goals, um, that alignment is key. And then it causes us to be impatient with our team, with, you know what I mean? Like everybody, it's crazy. I mean, I can't tell you how
Yes.
many times I was impatient at work, things weren't happening, and I came home in a horrible mood to my family. Like
I,
we all do it. It's
I always felt
so
like there's a very, 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 very thin line between like uh, almost like an athlete and being in the zone or breaking under pressure. Like it's there's like between that, it's you're either just completely collapsing or you're completely in the zone, and it's like so close that
Hmm.
you can, yeah. I just always
Hmm.
felt like, yeah,
Yeah.
the pressure can be overbearing
Yeah,
sometimes.
exactly. Exactly. Ryan, thanks for tuning in, brother. Dominican, my friend. Dominican this
Yes,
week.
yes.
Jeff says, if you let it, Dan. And that's the key. If you let it, right? Because
Mm,
sometimes it's a way more difficult than you want it to be to let it, because it's all, you have that, I'm not going to say front, but you have that front, right? Oh, no, no, I'm good, man. I'm going to close this deal. But it's when you put your head down on the pillow and your
yeah,
brain starts going
it's
and
that
you're having that
question.
conversation, yes, inside of your head, that all of a sudden it's like, did I lose my jive? You know what I mean? I love that. Awesome, Jeff.
Yes,
Trey says, let's go, boys. Happy Monday.
let's
He says,
go.
I know Gary Vee describes the difference between patience and complacency. You can maintain patience while staying intense with your goals and progress. 100%.
Yes, that is the
You know,
key. Yeah, that is the biggest key right there.
you
Yeah,
can tell Trey's a golfer,
yeah,
right?
that's
Like,
right.
you can tell, because
That's right.
in golf, it's all about
Yeah,
patience, consistency, keeping a
absolutely.
cool, and golf. You're playing against. I don't care if you're playing a tournament or whatever. You're playing against yourself, because in golf, the head
You're playing,
messes you up
yeah. You're
in two
not even
seconds flat.
yourself. You're playing against this. I
Yep.
mean, we've seen.
Yep.
Come on, like how does Tiger Woods? How do these pros that all they do all day is hit these balls, but man, they have one bad shot, or they have something going on, or just anything in it, and all of a sudden you're like, who is this guy? What
Hmm.
happened to him? It's still the
Hmm.
same person, but yeah, it's
Well, if you look at it, right? So one of the big key differences between professional golfers and amateur golfers is when they miss hit a shot,
mm,
in the next two or three shots, they typically don't go downhill for like 8 or 9 holes. Whereas we as amateur golfers, we miss a shot, the next shot probably gets worse, the next shot gets worse, and then it's like, it's just crap.
and then
I'm
the club
missing
goes
it. I'm
flying
sucking,
or
right? Every
snapped.
Exactly. It takes so long to get out of our own heads, right? Trey says,
Yes,
yes, I am intense, focus, incredible patience. 100%.
yeah,
And they say that routine is key, right? Like
yeah.
in golf, routine is key. And in sales, I think routine is key as well.
And
If
I'm so
you
glad you said that. So what do you do when you start to feel that? How I know you're in tune with that. You start to feel that, you start to question those things. What do you typically do to like get out of that?
I
Okay,
prime,
what's that?
I
Prime?
prime. Yeah. So when I realized, in my career, when I realized that, so two things. One thing, I've realized that some days are better than others. Like some days you're going to just get 6 or 7 people, that say, yeah, I'm in, let's talk, let's talk. And other days you're going to get 6 or 7 people that say, lose my number, you F and a-hole, right? Like it's just like, fuck off. Don't, don't call me, take me off your list, take me out of your cold call sequence, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and it's priming. It's priming. So what I do is I find that thing that, well, for lack of a better term, that builds my self confidence before I start making calls. Because as much as
Mm,
we know, like intuitively and in our head, that sales shouldn't ruin our self confidence, I believe so much in what I do that every time I hang up the phone from a no, it's okay. I didn't explain myself properly, or I didn't share the vision properly, because there's everybody that's in this industry needs this product and service. Like they need it. It's nothing in my head where I say, oh, do they? No, they need it. No ifs,
mm,
ands, or buts. And I kind of take that on my own shoulders to say I didn't share it properly. Now I know that's not true, because also when it comes to that customer profile,
of
but it's
course.
very difficult. It's very difficult, and it's like you having X amount of suppliers in a certain area, and you're like the king of Ohio.
Yes.
Anything that ships to or from Ohio, you are the king. And
Yeah.
when you try to explain that to a prospect, and they just won't have it, it's like it tears away at you, because you understand
In those
how.
moments, do you feel bad for them or do you feel bad for yourself? Because I always, in those moments, like if I feel like I have the thing, like especially hearing them tell that maybe their issues, their complaints, or whatever struggles they're having with shipping or their current suppliers, I always feel like I always feel bad for them, not for me. Like, why, what did I do wrong that you're not listening to me? What did I say
Mhm.
wrong that you just can't hear what I'm saying right now? Because what
Yeah.
did I do? Yeah. I always,
Yeah, I mean, I do, and then it switches internally.
yeah,
How did like what did I
doubt.
say that didn't get
What did I
through?
say?
I,
Yeah.
I remember I remember at the first company I was at, I'm on this cold call and it's going horrible, like horrible. I'm doing everything in my power just so the person doesn't hang up on me, thinking, okay, I'm gonna say something that's gonna kind of trigger that teeter totter to flip my way. And
Yeah.
I remember my executive vice president standing at the door. Mark, shout out to you if you're listening, brother. And he's listening to me. And I hang up the phone. He goes, "Man, you tried on that one." And I go, "I know." And I go, "You know what?" And I never even, and I stopped and I looked at him. I went, "1 minute." And I picked the phone back up and I called the person back. And he's
Same
standing at the
person.
door. And I go, "Yeah, the same person that just literally almost hung up on me." And
Okay.
I said, "Okay, here's the problem. I must not have said something right because you're not going to buy from me." And it was dead silence on the other end. And he goes, "What do you think you didn't say right?" I said, "I have no idea, none. But I'll tell you right now, you will never find somebody that will work harder for you to help you achieve what you need to achieve. That I could promise you." And you know what? That company ended up being a really good client because
Yes.
the guy was like, "Okay, you know what? Call me on Tuesday. Let's set up a time for 9 a.m." And I said, "Okay." And I hung up the phone. And I remember Mark looking at me going, "Wow, that was pretty cool." And I bet you I could do that 100 times and it'll work twice. But it was that kind of like my gut said go and I went. Do you know what I mean? Like not
Yes.
knowing what was going to happen.
No
Um,
hesitation.
yeah. And I remember because a lot of the times when Mark and I talk when he's talking to new salespeople coming into the company and stuff that he works for, he'll bring that story up and say like
Mm.
this is persistence, right? This is how we trust in sales. We trust our gut. Like how many times have you had a gut feeling about a carrier that you knew they were going to mess up, but you didn't trust it, and you ended up spending days cleaning up a mess that
Almost,
probably shouldn't even have been made in the
truthfully,
first place.
almost every time. That's what's so bad about it.
When you had the
Truthfully,
feeling, you mean
almost
every time
every
you had the
time I was
feeling.
like, hold on, I never, why did I do that? And then,
Yeah,
yeah, why did I do
exactly. Why?
that? Yeah.
Why? Right. Why? And again, does that? And here's the big question: does that come back to patience?
I
You
think it
want the
does.
customer
I
because
think
I
it
can tell
does.
you,
I think it does
yeah,
completely. Either
I
we're on the edge, or a carrier fell off, one of our good carriers, and we're like, and it's borderline, and so you're like, oh no,
mhm,
oh no, well, I just
yeah.
got to take this because I don't know, and so
Yeah,
yeah,
you want
yeah,
the load, you want the profit, right?
yeah,
You probably don't want to let the customer down.
exactly.
And so those three, or it's a brand new customer that called you up and said, "Now's your chance," in quotes,
Yes,
because
and
every other
you don't want to
person
blow that
bailed on
one
them.
shot. One
No, but
shot.
every other person bailed on them, DJ. How many customers have called you up at 9 in the morning and said, "Hey, here's your chance"?
Oh
No,
my
it's at
gosh,
4 o'clock in the afternoon when everybody else bails on them. And then you have to be that superstar. But when you're not, or when
I'd
you get a
I'd
truck
rather
and
the
it goes
9 o'clock.
wrong,
I'd rather the
but
9 o'clock than
but
the
when has
four
that ever
thirty.
happened?
Than the four
When
thirties. Here's your chance. It's 4:30.
yeah,
What?
yeah. But
Okay, hold on.
when have you ever had a prospect, not a customer, a
Yes.
prospect call you and say, "Hey, you've been soliciting me for like 4 months," hypothetically, right? And
Yes.
now's your chance. I got a
Yeah.
load for you from and call it I don't know a really good area to a really good area. It
Yeah.
never happens. The
No.
gravy loads, as we call them, right? It never
Yes.
happens. It's always
No.
4:30 in the afternoon, and it's the worst gringy, dungy pickup to the
No
worst
trucks
dungy
are ever
delivery
there, and no trucks
ever
ever want to
there,
go
and you got to be at
there.
$1,500 or something. You know what I mean? Like it's never the opposite, right? And
It's never.
that's hilarious. Jeff
Uh,
says, "Oh, sorry, Jeff, I pinned that for
hold
some
on.
reason."
I like Nerf. Nerf. We gotta go back there too. Oh, you're
Yeah.
going.
So
Okay.
Jeff says, "Yeah, you don't play against yourself; it's against the course and no one else.
Yeah.
100%."
Yeah.
Nirfad, does patience also work for offloading and loading at slow shippers? I think if you don't have
Uh,
patience in that point, brother,
meditation. Nerf.
yeah, yeah,
Meditation.
yeah,
Teach
or
the
just
driver.
banging your head against the wall until you get pass out, and then you wake up and your freight's loaded. Ryan says Dan Prime's "I cry, laugh out loud." true. That's true. If you can't sell yourself to yourself, how can you sell it to others? This is key. If you sell what you feel,
Jeff,
100%.
I'm so glad you said that. Yes,
Yeah.
if you can't sell yourself and you're having those internal doubts with anything you're saying, there's something you're saying that's not
And
right.
not only anything you're saying, if you're selling and you have internal about your operation,
Oh,
your
geez.
prospect will feel
Yeah.
that. And here's the thing: when you don't have patience and you start pushing, you instantly get commission breath. Instantly, it's almost like patience, commission breath. And
Yes.
when that teeter totter moves, it's like a full on downhill. And that's why I say, patience is kind of on the low, and then patience, and it's crazy how instantly you can have like a prospect you've been soliciting for 5 months. Everything's going great. And you try and push that prospect over the edge when they're not ready, and you'll ruin that 5 months
Oh
of,
yeah, they'll
of, of
disappear. They'll
relationship
disappear.
building.
I had. I'll tell a good story. So I had a customer like that. I forget even it was like so painful because I know it was a big account. There was a lot of opportunity, and it was such a process, and it was just such a debt. Like the longest process I had gone into being new to this industry, and it's like, okay, really? Like, why is it take everybody else is so much quicker? Why are you taking so damn long? But it's and so is me, and so I just was like, okay, what are we waiting for? And instantly she was gone. That was it. never answer my call again. Never answer the email. Like just gone. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's just and that's where it was. You can never. It's like forcing a square peg through a round hole. You can't do
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Never be able
And
to
even
do it.
after, and I
Impossible
would
to do.
say even after the sale, DJ, you have to be very careful and you have to be patient. I remember just when I was getting into sales training, meaning I had, 17 people in one office, and I was doing in a couple of different provinces in Canada and the US, I had, probably 30 other salespeople that I was mentoring and training. And I remember Mr. Safety Shoes, huge company up here in Canada. It was about 6 months it took me to close them. And I'll never forget, Lynn Fitzsimmons was her name. And she says, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. And I had set up this whole distribution network in Canada from all the warehouses. I mean, it was a lot of business. And as soon as she said, okay, I said, perfect, I'll send you off the credit app and let's get it signed. She said, okay. I said, and immediately I went, would you be willing to come and speak to all of the people that I helped train and kind of share with them why you started working with me? And she's like, what?
Oh
And I'm
gosh.
like, yeah. Can you, and I just total brain lapse. So we had, and talking about LTL distribution, so like $80 here, $90 here,
Yeah.
$150 here, like
Yeah.
small amounts like that, because it's
Yeah.
safety shoes, right? So it's like 7 boxes go here and da-da. It was probably close to an $800,000 a year account in LTL. So you're talking some serious volumes.
That's a big
That's a big
yeah.
account.
Yeah.
Never picked up another one of my phone calls. Never.
No.
Like, yeah. Totally ghost. Like,
Because you scared the shit out of her.
it was like SEAL Team 6 chasing Osama bin Laden. She went dark, gone, like gone.
That's
And it was like, oh my, and I remember like I would call, I'd be like, hey, if I offended you in any, the whole thing. But it was and I sat
that's you,
back and
not me.
went, man, like what is wrong with you? Like you hadn't even moved a load for this person yet. And you're asking them to come and speak to 30 people to discuss how it went from cold call to building a relationship to closing a deal. Like how stupid can you be? And it's fun. Like, and DJ, I was like 20 years into my career then. It's not like I was day 6.
Yeah, but
You know what I
listen.
mean?
So just listening to that story, something was vibing that you thought like, okay, this is going to be a really good
Yeah,
customer. This was like a good
yeah,
process. Let's tell this story. Let me get you involved. And she's like, nope, out of here.
yeah,
she,
yeah,
she,
and gone. I mean,
yeah.
I went to the location. Not in, not in. It was
Really?
like, oh yeah. I mean, it was DJ was a huge. And the thing is, I was also dealing with a company called Enersys, which deals in like the big forklift batteries,
Hmm.
and I was doing probably 400,000 of LTL. So what it was is like combining the two accounts, we're going to be like a
Yes,
$1.2 million for my LTL carrier. That's huge for an LTL carrier for small
absolutely.
distribution, but it was also huge for the structure of my dedicated business. because that's how I structured my whole business, was dedicated. Like I ran 3 times the business with a third of the people, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like that ratio.
Well, yeah, because you're pairing stuff. Yeah.
So it was like both of those were key. So not only did, because I was impatient to have somebody, even I could have done it with a reference letter. Like I didn't have to have the person come in and speak. It was like at that point in time, I was like, well, wouldn't it be cool if I brought kind of like what we do? We bring customers in to speak on, you know, what's going on and what they look for.
Yeah.
So I could have waited till we did 15 or 20 loads or 30 loads. I could have waited 6 months till we developed the relationship and I got to know, and maybe her boss, Jim, at the time, I forget his last name, but maybe he would have been the one that would come speak. Do you know what I mean? Like it's, but it was just that it said, okay, deal.
Yeah.
And I jumped.
You're in the moment. You're in the moment, though. I think you're in the moment.
Yeah. It was like I'm falling from the building, and you're like, yeah, there's nothing stopping me right now. I'm free falling. You know? And it was crazy. Never for 6 months, probably about not 6 months, probably about 4 months after that. Every 2 days, I would call and I probably became that stalker dude as well. Like every 2 days, calling somebody was like, okay, enough, right? But yeah, crazy. I mean, huge lesson in it. And I guess in the end, you know, I know you got to get going exactly in 4 minutes here, but you know, I think in the end, if we don't pay attention to those lessons, the universe keeps giving them to us until we pay attention, right? I mean, you know, some people call it self-sabotage, and I mean, I think people do self-sabotage themselves, but I think self-sabotage, my personal opinion is self-sabotage comes from the fact that we're not listening. And when we're not taking what happens, and regardless of how difficult it is, it's like, what's the lesson in there that I need to learn so I don't keep friggin' repeating this crap and having these same issues come up? And that, you know, that whole patience thing.
Would you say lack of self-awareness might really help with sabotage?
Yeah. I mean, I believe lack of self-awareness is the origin point, right? Like or lack of paying attention. Like, so, and I'll give you a perfect example. And I know tomorrow is our Go for No challenge end, but I'll tell you the big thing. And I said this in week 1, and it's just eye-opening. The big thing for me is when you start tracking your no's, you realize how many yeses you have. And that for me,
if I knew that.
Yeah, if I learned that lesson 15 years ago, I can't tell you how many days I would have come home saying, you know what? I did good today. Instead of coming home going like feeling like you've been hit by a Mack truck, literally, or a Pete with a big, you know, with a big deer push bar or moose push bar on the front from northern.
Because that is what it feels like some days.
It is. But when you pay attention, again, that patience to sit back and go, okay, what good happened today? Because if you look for the bad, you're going to find it. But if you look for the good, you're going to find it, right? It's just common personal development. But that for the Go for No challenge has allowed me to look at that. You know, and like we were saying off air when we were talking about, you know, some of the issues we had yesterday, and Christine said it perfectly. She says, you know, like, but we're on vacation. It's like, yes, you're absolutely right. Boom. And that trumps everything, right? Boom. Yeah, exactly. Kevin says, I preach patience consistently. Sorry, go for it.
Oh, I was going to say, throw up Kevin's thing there. Preach patience.
Consistently, it says patience is great, but persistence can turn into harassment very fast. And there's such a fine line, and you have to be aware of that. 100%. Yes.
Nailed it, Kevin. You nailed it,
Kevin. Now, Kevin, what does that I'm gonna say Chinese, and I don't know if it's Chinese writing, but what is that Asian writing beside your name, after your name? Share with us.
I'm glad you said that. So we will. You can share that out there, Kevin. We thank you, everybody. I do have to run. Let Dan enjoy his first day in his beautiful setting back there. It's not a backdrop, guys. He is really.
You enjoy the snow.
Yeah, no snow there. We got snow here. He did leave snow that's now coming to a house. So thank you, Dan. Thank you for.
You're very welcome, brother. Hey, you know what? Don't say I never gave you anything. Just say it. What do you got to bring us out today, brother? Oh, hold on. Is this Kevin? It is. Yeah. It is Chinese. Okay, it's my business name for my time spent there. Nice.
I love it. All right, I love it. Well, hey, thank you for joining us, Kevin, and thank you everybody else for joining us. Thank you for joining us weekly, daily. Lisa, Jeff. Lisa, be ready.
He's
Jeff's
got to
gonna
bring
try
it.
to
He's
get
got
you
to
one of
bring it.
these days. Jeff's gonna get you, so you better be ready. But again, thank you everybody for joining us Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. till 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Sales Chatter Live. If you are watching this on a replay, we do replay this again daily on LinkedIn and our other channels. 12 noon Eastern Standard and 3 p.m. So if you do miss this, but like and subscribe down below if you are watching this on Sales Chatter Live or Dan Deegan on YouTube to get notified when we are live next. Good old proverb. Actually, Kevin, it's a Chinese proverb that I decided for today. So how weird is that? But one moment of patience may ward off great disaster. One moment of impatience may ruin a whole life. Remember that, guys. Patience.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information